Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Anne and today I'm going to talk about some new to me authors that I'd really like to read some books from in 2021. These are all authors that I've seen around a lot in the book community and that I've grown curious about, and I think I knew about all of these authors before 2020, so they're not new to me in the sense that I didn't know about them before, but they're new to me in the sense that I've never read anything by them before and I'd really like to change that in 2021. It's not that I have one particular book that I want to read that happens to be by this author, but they're all authors that have multiple works out that sound interesting to me. And there are a few authors on this list that I actually own a book by, but I just haven't read them yet, and they've come out with other works that I'm also interested in. So without further ado, let's dive into the list. The first author on the list is Samantha Shannon, who wrote The Priory of the Orange Tree, which I obviously own. This is a beautiful but huge book that's been intimidating me for a while. I think I bought it last year in 2019, which is also when it came out. This is an adult fantasy novel that, as far as I know, includes queens and dragons and epic women, and I think there are also some queer characters in here, and I've heard nothing but good things about this. And I really wanted to read it this year, but it's how many pages? It's 800 pages long, and it's intimidating, but I really want to read this. And apart from this, which is a standalone novel, I think Samantha Shannon also writes the Bone Season series. I'm not actually sure what the name of the series is, but the first book is called The Bone Season, and this is a series that will consist of 7 books, but I think there are now 3 or 4 books out, or the 4th will be published in March, I'm not entirely sure, but this is a supernatural dystopian series about clairvoyancy, and it sounds really good. I've heard a lot of people talking about it, but especially Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction. She loves The Priory of the Orange Tree as well, and she's just always raving about these books, which makes me very interested in reading them. The second author on my list is N.K. Jemisin, and I think this is actually the only author I didn't know about before 2020, but I've seen her books around a lot this year. She has written the Broken Earth trilogy, which is a speculative fiction trilogy. The first book is called The Fifth Season, and I've been wanting to read it for a few months now because it sounds so good. It's a speculative fiction, science fiction story that's set on another planet, and on this other planet, every few centuries they experience a 5th season of catastrophic climate change. And that sounds really interesting to me. I think there are also quite some fantasy elements. There are people with special abilities. I don't know much more about it than that, but it sounds really cool, and this series is definitely high up on my list of priorities for 2021. I should actually buy the first book, I think, so that I can actually read it next year. But N.K. Jemisin has actually written another book that sounds really cool. It's called The City We Became, and this is an urban fantasy novel set in New York, and in this world great cities become sentient through human avatars. That's basically all I know, but it sounds really cool. Sentient cities sounds like something I'd love to read about. So I've seen a couple of people talk about it this year, and it sounds really interesting. Next up we've got Marie McClain, who is an author I've seen around a lot over the past few years, and I think they're the one that I've been curious about for the longest. They're a Mexican-American author of young adult magical realism novels, and I think I've seen Kayla from Books and Lala talk about their books a few times, and there's just something about them that sounds like it's perfect for me. I love magical realism, and their stories are also often inspired by fairy tales, and they're queer and inclusive, and that just sounds like something I'd really want to give a go. I don't really know or remember what the books are about specifically, but I know they've written, among others, The Weight of the Feathers, When the Moon Was Ours, and Wild Beauty. And I know that when I heard the synopses for these books that I loved them, but I don't remember them now. But I'm really excited to read at least one of these books and find out if Marie McClain might be a new favorite author, because judging by everything I've heard about their books so far, I think they just might be. Then there's Erin Morgenstern, who wrote The Night Circus. This seems to be a lot of people's favorite book on BookTube, but I've also seen a lot of people who dislike it, so it could go either way for me, but it sounds really interesting. It's a fantasy novel set in 19th century London, and it's about this circus that arrives without warning. I don't really know more about it than that, but I've seen a lot of people rave about it, which makes me interested. But the reason why Erin Morgenstern is on this list is because they've also recently released a new book called The Starless Sea. I think it came out in 2019 already, because time goes very fast. But that one actually sounds more interesting to me than this one. It's about a labyrinthine type construction of tunnels and rooms where stories are held, I think. I'm not sure. But I love stories about stories, and that actually appeals to me more, but I am going to read this first because I actually own this one. And this has been on my radar for such a long time that it feels weird to suddenly hop onto the Starless Sea train and read that one first. But I think that even if I don't like this one, I'm going to give the Starless Sea a try anyway. Next up are two authors who are no longer with us, and they're both very well known, very popular, and they've written some modern classics. First up is James Baldwin, who wrote Giovanni's Room, which is a book that I've been wanting to read for a very long time, but for some reason still haven't. I don't own a copy of it, but that can easily change, of course. And I'd also like to read some of his essays because I think that would be very interesting. Earlier this year I saw a fragment of him speaking, and he sounded so eloquent and so intelligent that I think I'd love his writing. His writing is often about masculinity and sexuality and race and class, and those are definitely all things that I am interested in. So in 2021 I'm finally going to read James Baldwin, and that is a pledge. And the last author on this list is Ursula K. Le Guin, who is best known for her fantasy works, I think, but she's also written a lot of sci-fi novels, and I am especially interested in trying her sci-fi novels because I've been very into sci-fi lately. I love sci-fi. I think she's best known for her Earthsea series, which is a fantasy series, but I've heard mixed things about that, so I'm not really that interested in reading that. But the book I want to try first is The Lathe of Heaven, I think it's called, and it's about someone who can alter past and present reality with their dreams, and I'm always interested in stories about dreams, so I really want to read that. But that's just a starting point. If I end up really liking that, I'm going to find something new by her to read, but she's written so many books that it's kind of overwhelming and I don't really know where to start beyond that book, which I think is one of the lesser known ones. But I saw it on Connor's channel, who's also a big fan of James Baldwin, so I'll leave his channel down below. And it sounded really interesting when he talked about it. And that's it for my list of authors I'd really like to read in 2021. There's so many more books I want to read in 2021, and I think I'm going to make a separate video on my reading plans for the year, but that will probably only be up in January. But these are all authors I'm very excited to try. If you've read any of their books, please leave a comment down below telling me what you think. Without spoilers, of course. And please let me know a new to you author that you'd really like to try in 2021. Please like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my videos in the future. And have a wonderful day. Bye!